computer. Okay, awesome. And we're gonna I think it'll be nice to wait a little bit, like maybe a minute or two, just so people get settled, people can come in, acclimate a little bit. I see our speaker joins. Let me make her a co-host as well. Amazing. Okay. Awesome sauce. Okay. Oh, I still see people coming in. And Christian, do you mind actually putting in the chat that the Zoom is open? Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, on that note, welcome everybody to our third Introduction to Leadership and Public Speaking workshop. We're right in the middle, halfway done. Thank you all for continuing to come and be a part of this leadership journey with us. I'd love to introduce our first, our first speaker for today, Dr. Moya. She works at Chase, also known as OPA, at Lehman College, which is an incredible resource on campus for you guys. So if you guys, she'll talk a little bit more about it, but if you guys are interested in any prestigious awards after you graduate, internships, things of that nature that can help you excel. We actually had a one of our students, he actually got into Harvard through the office. They actually help you find these awards, apply for them, how to actually develop your applications, which is also kind of a part, it coincides with public speaking and actually developing that your inner voice and whatnot. So thank you, Dr. Moya, for being here today. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Well, you said one of speakers. Should I begin now, or are you planning to introduce other folks?
Yeah, you can begin now. After you're done, we'll lead into Introduction to Leadership, which will be Patricia, and then I go into public speaking. So yeah.
Okay, great. So let me just pull up something really quickly. First, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure when I get to speak to folks about my office. And I should add just one slight correction. I know that Chase is a recent development on campus, I think maybe the last 2 years. So it's a little bit confusing as to where we lie in terms, where OPA lies in terms of Chase. So Chase is a broader umbrella department. It stands for Campus Honors and Scholar Development. Campus Honor and Scholar Engagement. And OPA is one office member, or the Office of Prestigious Awards is one member office of the broader Chase family. So there is OPA, which is my office, which I'll talk to you a bit about. Then there's the Macaulay Honors Program and the LSP, or the Lehman Scholars Program. And these are the sister programs in the honors programs. But then there's a Student Research Advisory Board. And then there is graduate school prep services and test prep services. So there are 6 sort of different offices underneath within Chase, I should say, the Department of Chase, and OPA is just one. So we are not the same as Chase, although we are within Chase. Now, having said that, I should introduce myself, Dr. Moya Bedward. I'm a historian by training, which is where you got the doctor from. A professor recently asked me if I was a doctor of supporting students with acquiring prestigious awards or nationally competitive awards. And I wish that there was a doctorate available in that, because that is something that I absolutely think that I would have loved to have pursued. But nevertheless, I pursued a career or pursued an education in history because I love history. And part of the reason, by way of introduction to myself, that I love history is because when I started as a student at CUNY, one of the offices that completely changed my life was the Office of Honors and Scholarships. So it's a differently named office, but essentially it's the work that was going on in an office just like mine. And I tell the story that I was walking around campus one day, and I was just sort of like aimlessly walking around, and I saw this office that says honors and scholarships, and I was like, hey, I'm broke. I could use some money. And I went in there, and it was the best decision that I ever made. And between the time that of my undergraduate career, so between the time that I was a freshman, um, and when I graduated from graduate school with my doctorate in history, I earned something like 600,000. I think it's like 675, somewhere like that last calculation, 675,000 thereabouts in grants and scholarships. And one of our students from here at Lehman is in Greece, and I was like, oh, I'm so jealous that I'm helping you all go, travel all over the place, and I don't get to go anywhere. And someone reminded me, but you've already been everywhere, which is true. I went so many places all over Europe, many places in Africa, some places in Asia, in the Caribbean, all fully funded. But more than the money, I was able to, ask myself lots of questions about what I wanted to do in the world, questions that I have. One of the questions that for the reason I pursued my doctorate was a question that I developed, or a curiosity, I should say, that I developed while traveling in Egypt. And I went to graduate school to solve that question. But while there, I realized that teaching is really great, and I love to teach. It's one of my favorite pastimes, professional pastimes, I should say. I have other personal pastimes that I also quite enjoy. Um, but I love teaching, but I decided that I wanted to do something which I think would have a broader impact in the world. And for me, that was making room for other people, making room for other CUNY students to be able to achieve more than what, and that's always my hope, to achieve more than what I was able to achieve. And I feel like I've achieved a lot, right? I left Far Rockaway. I traveled the world. I learned a bunch of languages. I did so many, I've seen so many amazing things. I saw the pyramids, just all these fantastic things. And I want for students at CUNY in particular, which I'm a CUNY alumna, I graduated from Queens College. So, from the same ecosystem as Lehman College. And I wanted to pursue a career that would allow me to not only inspire, but work diligently with CUNY students to go off and pursue their passions. And to go off and build networks that would help to sustain them, not only emotionally and mentally, but certainly financially, especially in this day and age. I felt broke when I was a student, so I can't imagine how you all feel these days with inflation. Um, so all that to say that this is the reason why I'm here at Lehman, because I really value, the transformative power of pursuing nationally prestigious awards. But you might be wondering, okay, she's been rambling for a while. What the heck does she mean by prestigious awards? So the office is named for it, the Office of Prestigious Awards. But what exactly is a prestigious award? Um, they're essentially scholarships or fellowships that students can apply for either as an undergraduate or in some cases, actually quite a few cases, in fact, excuse me, once you've earned your bachelor's degree, you can apply for these awards, so like Fulbright or Luce, Gates, Cambridge, so it's so many of them, to help you either pursue postgraduate, so master's or doctorate, or professional development in the case of Luce. But for those students who are still undergraduates, they help you to do a number of things, which are to pursue research if you're in STEM or even in the humanities as well. If you're in the arts, for creative pursuits, if you want to go learn how to play music or do something like that. For experiential learning, so study abroad, interning, different kinds of things. And as I mentioned, post-undergraduate studies, so masters or doctorates. So why pursue prestigious awards? The thing I like to tell people is that having earned a college degree doesn't mean anything when you graduate, right? It doesn't do anything for you. All it says is that you're good at handing in your papers on time, and that you did your assignments. But what it means in terms of actual practical skills that you can use on the job market, it means very little, in fact. Unless you were in school studying computer science and you actually learned the skills. But even in that case, right, they want to know that you can work independently. They want to know that you can collaborate as a part of a team. And I'm sorry, but classwork does not indicate that, because who knows if you let your lab mate do all the work, or if you did all the work and your lab mate didn't contribute. In both of those scenarios, it's terrible. If you didn't do anything, shame on you. But if you did all the work, Poor thing, you didn't really learn how to advocate for yourself so that people aren't taking advantage of you. Both of these skills are really necessary. So even in these sort of soft skills, you really need to be able to develop them prior to graduating. And when you apply for jobs, they want to see on your resume or in your cover letter or in an interview that you're able to articulate these things really well. That, hey, I've developed these skills and I have the competencies at the minimum level that will allow me to have this entry level and hopefully above entry level. But let me tell you, I don't want you all to graduate pursuing entry level positions. Entry level positions are things that you can pursue while you're in undergrad. And what I mean by pursue them, I mean that you're already earning the skills, you're building the network so that you're already entry level material while you're in undergrad. So that by the time you graduate, you can apply for the next level up or even maybe an assistant vice president. Now, I had a friend, now he didn't tell me the secret, shame on him. But when we graduated from Queens College, he graduated as the vice president of community philanthropic something another at Chase Bank. And he was making $95,000 more than 10 years ago. I've aged myself, but I don't care. When we graduated from undergrad, right? And I was shocked. But you know what he did? He applied for so many internships. He applied for so many opportunities so that he could network and learn the skills that he was earning nearly six figures as a 23-year-old. I mean, amazing. Now, it turned out that he didn't really like the job, which is fine because he still learned a great deal of skills and he stayed there for 2 years and leverage those skills to go on and do something even more fantastic. So what I'm saying is it's not impossible for you or any other student at CUNY to graduate and earn. Now, $95,000 isn't quite what it is, or quite what it was, I should say, a decade or so ago. But even still, $95,000 is something, and it's possible for you to do that. So this is what we're offering at OPA, an opportunity for you to apply for these awards, get paid, get funded to go off and learn the skills so that when you graduate, not only you have the skills, you have the network, so that you can apply for these positions that will put you in a position to live the kind of life with dignity, with grace, and with fun, and without worries that I believe that you all are meant to live and deserve to live. Okay, so and I should say that I'm speaking at 1,000,000 miles an hour because this is not meant to be comprehensive, meaning that I cannot tell you everything there is to tell you about how amazing you are and how amazing one of these programs is for you. The way that you do that is to book an appointment with our office, and I'll come to the QR code in just a second. But just in case you were wondering, and I'm just going to speak in monetary terms because it would take too long to go over and each one of these awards without taking up at least an hour. But let me just say what they're offering, just in terms of monetary amount. Fulbright is offering, depending on country, near $40,000 for just 1 year of study. The Watson Foundation is offering up to $30,000 over the course of 3 years in terms of paid internships. So you're guaranteed an internship, a skill building opportunity every year. Freeman Asia, I don't recall the full amount, but Gilman is offering up to $10,000 depending on qualifications and fields of study for any study abroad program. It could be affiliated with an institution or it's something that's self-designed. Voyager Scholarship is offering up to $70,000 for you to go do independent research. That's again, $70. Warren Awards, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's somewhere between $30,000 and $70,000 depending on the place you go to. Schwarzman is offering a fully funded, I repeat, fully funded, meaning free to you, master's program. Harry Truman is offering free master's program along with professional development. Wrangle, I think their awards, it's a free master's program, but it's much more than that. It's something like $100,000 when you're done with like all of the benefits that they offer you, right? So these are just a couple of the big names that we work with. However, there's so many more hundreds, thousands, in fact, of scholarships and opportunities that you can apply to. And the thing is that there's an old adage which says that money begets money. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but essentially it means that start small. If you apply for something and it's worth $50, The next person who has $250 will say, okay, this person's idea is worth at least 50 bucks. I think we can make it work 250. And then you got 250, then you can apply for 5,000 or something like that. But the idea is each time you build a skill, it's the same idea about applying for jobs. You start off at an entry-level position, you build the skills, and you go to the next, and then next thing you know, you're CEO of your own company, right? But what I'm saying is that I don't want you to start. I want you to jump a couple ladder rungs. I want you to move from entry level. By the time you graduate up to the next section, that comes with more money and less a less hassle-filled life, which is what I'm advocating for. A more clarity of being. Rest is good, and I advocate for it. Okay, so how do you I'm going to skip through some of these. How do you make good use of what I'm saying? Like, how do you get to us? How do you get to me, my office? Well, first of all, we're right across the hall. I think you can actually see the Student Life building through my window here. We're right across the way from the Student Life building in Carmen Hall 188, but we also have a student lounge and music building 107. And you can find us there Monday through Thursdays, 10 to 4, sometimes beyond those hours. But for one-on-one appointment, which is what I advocate strongly that you make good use of, we have advising appointments. If it's your first time with our office, I recommend that you take you book an initial intake appointment, or if you've worked with us, you can book a returning student appointment. I would like to also emphasize those of you who are freshmen through seniors, but especially if you're juniors and sophomores, and you're planning to go to med school, law school, or to pursue a PhD or a master's program that requires a GRE, LSAT, or MCAT, we have free test prep services. Y'all, these cost thousands of dollars, but they're here for you for free. And the person who does them is exceptional, okay? So don't pay for things that you get for free, and don't waste opportunities that you get for free by not making good use of them. And I told you about the lounge. We also have lots of events on campus. And you can find, we have some A-frames, they're in purple, very beautifully designed, that have a listing our events. However, if you are, why is it doing that? If you are desperate to know when our next upcoming event is, which is going to be actually the next public event, is ScienceCon. And when I say public, I mean, if you're currently applying for scholarships, we have regular writing sessions where we have lunch for people who are applying to scholarships, where we feed you and encourage you to work in community to write. But if you're not quite up to that stage yet, we have a next upcoming event, October 28th, which is ScienceCon. I'm sure you would have heard of it if you've been on campus before, but if you haven't, I'll leave it a secret for when you see it on Instagram. You see what it's all about. But one of the things that I want to share with you, and of course it still won't allow me to open it, which is unfortunate, is this QR code right here for SharePoint. It has a whole list of all of the scholarships, well, not all of them, most of them that we work with. But if you find something that's not on there that you want to apply to, we will of course help you to apply. For a full listing of all of the things that we're up to throughout the week and the academic year, you can scan this here, our link tree. But most importantly, to make an appointment with our office, you scan this here and of course click initial appointment. And if you're a little bit confused about all of these things that I've said, and maybe I've spoken a little bit too fast, you can always send us an email at prestigious.awards@Lehman, or write to us through Instagram. Okay, so let me end here on the QR code so you can have them. And I'm happy to take questions if anyone has any questions for me.
Yes, everyone, please feel free to either write your questions, say your questions. In addition to that, a lot of the websites I put in the chat, and Christian helped me as well. Christian helped with directing directly to the OPA Lehman page. I put the link for the book appointments in the chat, and also the Chase Instagram, which is really good if you want to follow, keep an eye out for their events. I actually just scanned the SharePoint website and I'm going to put that in the chat in a second, but just wanted to let people know that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Emily. I see O'Neill, if I'm saying your name properly. If I'm not, please correct me. You have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yes, fantastic. I have a question. Something you mentioned in the beginning is your major is history, right?
So I'm not a student. But when I was in undergrad and when I went to graduate school, I was a history major, but I was also political science and philosophy major. So I triple majored in college.
Wow, that's impressive.
You don't need to do that. I liked school, which is why I'm still working at one. Did I answer your question or did you have a follow-up?
Oh, I asking you because I want to know something. So when someone has a major in history, that don't significate that person want to be a teacher?
No, it doesn't. That's a really great question. A lot of the humanities, so if you think history, less so political science because folks tend to think media, journalism, or politics or something like that, public service. But if you think like philosophy, history, anthropology, majors like this that don't necessarily have precise career paths, you think, oh, what can I do with that? But that's the reason why, well, first off, I should say, these majors offer you one crucial thing, which I think other majors do not. And I will say that and scream it from the top of my lungs. Oh, and English as well as one of these majors. They help you to think critically, right? And folks really underestimate the value of being able to engage in critical thinking, engaging analysis. Because if you have a problem that's facing you and you need to find an innovative solution or just a basic solution, if you lack basic critical thinking skills, meaning how to say, okay, here's a problem that I have. Here's what the outcome might be if I take X path, Y path, Z path. This is a form of critical thinking, right? And being able to like avoid pitfalls, to foresee any trouble before it happens, or to come out with like a really good plan that even if there's a pitfall along the way, that you'll be able to overcome it. These are the kinds of skills that these majors provide you with. And when they provide you with these kinds of skills, you'll be able to take them and go to almost any job. Well, not, I say almost because please don't try to be a doctor. You're not equipped to do that as a history major or as a philosophy major, and don't do it. Okay. But in terms of going into the legal field and going into business, and going to almost any other field that doesn't require like hard skills, like knowing how to like dissect a cell, or these really important skills that you need for medicine and things like that, or for like engineering, you really need a strong math and chemistry background for these kinds of things. But they prepare you for almost any career. But here's the one caveat, right? Because a lot of these majors are helping you with soft skills like critical thinking, right? You need to be able to have experience. And this is where prestigious awards come in. If you're in one of these majors, you really need to be out there doing something, learning something practically. Have you worked within organizations? Do you know if there's something in the world, there's an issue in the world that's really passionate? Do you know if you want to go into, if you're in a philosophy major and you want to do advocacy work, you want to work in ethics, right? You want to be, the ethics person for an business ethics or something like that. You want to be the ethics person for an organization. Have you worked in an organization? Do you know what the mission of the organization is? Do you know how to do XYZ? So you need to have an internship. You need to have some kind of experience in order to be able to say, hey, I'm not just a philosophy major who's interested in ethics. I've worked in this organization. I know how to like understand an organization's mission, understanding the work that they're doing, and seeing whether or not the mission and the work that they're doing is having the intended outcome. That's critical thinking, right? And then you pull on the practical experience that you've had with this work experience that you've done as an undergraduate with your internship to say, yeah, I'm fully equipped to do this work.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I can stop sharing my screen now. I can find my mouse.
While others are thinking of questions, I want to just share with everybody, I actually was a Gilman alumni, and they did pay for pretty much my experience in South Korea. I studied sustainable strategies. They paid for literally the whole thing, and I actually got extra money, which really helped. And that was my first time actually applying to anything. I was still in the mindset at that time that I don't have experience. I don't, I'm never going to get this award. I never win anything. And I got it. So I wanted to share this with you because you too have every opportunity and every chance to actually get these things. And this office can help you with that.
We really want to help you.
Yeah.
I, you know, I don't do this work for the paycheck. In fact, I could be doing something much easier. Right now it's applications in season and I'm exhausted. But every time I come and I read how improved the essays are, or somebody writes to me that they won something or they learned something from the application, I get so excited. When students write to me, people write to me, they're like, oh, I'm enjoying Mexico. And I'm like, that's amazing. I'm so glad you're in Mexico. Please send some of the sun with you back. I was talking to one of the students who was in Greece. I mentioned earlier, and I'm like, wow, send pictures. Let me see what's going on. It makes me so happy. I'm not there, but I've already had my time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've done the things that I've wanted to do. So I want to see you all go off and have like amazing adventures. And even if your adventure is just being in a lab and chopping up a pig and doing whatever, like that's not for me. But if it's for you, I really want to help you to do it, whatever that is. I saw someone write in the chat, if we help with visa applications. We do not do that. The only thing that we work on are applications for scholarships and for funding.
If I can jump into that though, really quick.
Emily, go on.
Yeah, thank you. Office of International Programs and Community Engagement. They help with visa applications. I will actually put info to their website in the chat in a second. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Xiomara, if I'm saying your name properly, please correct me. You can
Yeah.
ask a question. Yeah.
Yes, hi. My question is, do you think going abroad to study or doing researches or things like that is a very good thing for our career?
Oh, absolutely is. It's the only thing that will help to distinguish you. One of the things I haven't said, which is I'm happy for your question because it reminds me to say this, is that a lot of people, a lot of students, I should say, who end up at CUNY, especially the ones who've applied to places like Columbia and NYU or like Princeton, Harvard, and like all these fancy places, they don't get in and they come to CUNY and they're like, oh, I'm so pissed. I didn't get to go to these places. But um, there's actually no difference between the education that you're receiving there and the education that you're receiving here, except in one really important regard. All of these students know that you're supposed to be networking, you're supposed to be doing all of these extracurricular things. And I should say, we call them high impact co-curricular. So going abroad with a scholarship to do something, not just going abroad to take pictures on Instagram or wherever you guys are taking pictures these days. I went and I studied a language. I went and I did research in Germany. I don't know. I went to South Korea and I studied this thing or whatever it is that you do. Yes, these are the things that will help you in the career. Not only it's a very good, it's one of the most important things that you can do in college, besides, of course, going to classes and and getting good grades and graduating.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. I see Jocelyn is asking, can a senior go abroad? Yes, in fact, there are many applications that we're working with students on currently for seniors, if you're a senior. In fact, most of these awards are open to seniors. But folks, I don't want you to wait until you're a senior. It makes it even more difficult for you to be successful. Just because you're a senior doesn't mean that listen, just because I said that doesn't mean you're like, oh no, she said, don't wait until you're a senior because you're not going to be. That's not what I said. I said, don't wait until you're a senior because it makes it more difficult. Not impossible, but more difficult. Only because you haven't had the practice of applying, right? Only because you don't have a wealth of application materials to draw on. The more things you apply to, the easier it is for you to just whip them up, right? Just grab paragraphs and change it around. You're like, oh, I could whip this up in no time, right? I'm ready to go. And then to harken back to something I said earlier, if you apply to early, starting in your freshman year, and the more things you get, the stronger a chance it is that you'll get other things because they're like, oh, you got a Watson? Oh, you got a Gilman? Okay, let me give you a Fulbright. Let me give you this. Let me give you that. Let me give you this. Let me give you that, right? Yeah.
And I could attest to that too, actually. When I was an undergrad, I actually started pretty late, like end of junior year, and things were closed off and things like that for me. And then I graduated and then they close off because then more close off because you're not a student. And by the way, this office is still open to alumni as well, if I recall correctly. Yeah, so please, even if you do graduate, please reach out to them as well. But as Moya mentioned, the sooner you start, the better. I actually need to make an appointment with you. I know I need my follow-up emails. I'm currently in time poverty. I have 5 part-time jobs. I don't know how I'm surviving, but yes, reach out as soon as possible because these things, can help complement you and it really does put you on the map. I do see another question in the chat that was further up. I've taken an intake meeting, but it was a long time ago. Should I sign up for it again?
If you have the notes that were provided to you, like the list of scholarships that would be a good fit for you, no, you don't have to sign up for another intake meeting, but you should put returning student. If, however, you don't have the information and it was so long you don't even actually remember what happened, then you should sign up for an intake meeting.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's always my pleasure to speak to you all. If you see me on campus, please say hi, but more importantly, stop by the office, either virtually or in person. And I hope to be celebrating you in some near future. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much, Emily, for the time.
Thank you, Moya. Awesome. So how did everyone like that session, by the way?
It was great. Thank you.
Yay.
Great. Happy to hear. Yeah, it's a fantastic office and they're really active on campus. So they usually have like a lot of events. They even have that one program if you sign up. If you attend events, they can actually give you money. So reach out to them, see how you could get these things. So yeah. On that note, we will be moving on to our next presenter. Thank you. I see in the chat. Thank you. Patricia McDonough. She will be presenting Challenge the Process, our introduction to leadership focus on this week. She is the student life specialist at Campus Life, one of the administration, and yeah. Patricia, are you there?
Very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Emily, again.
Good afternoon.
I'm so happy to see familiar faces from yesterday's retreat. Amazing. Thank you. So some of you know me already. My name is Patricia McDonough. As Emily says, I'm the student life specialist. I also supervise camp, coordinate orientation with the team, and I do one-on-one with the students and club members that need support. So I'm there for that. If one day you need to talk to me about anything, you can come to the office. You can make your appointment online. So I'm there for you. So thank you very much for this opportunity, for having me here. So my topic today is challenge the process. So I do have Emily that has my presentation they are setting for you guys. So I would like all of you to start thinking, how can you challenge the process? So we're gonna play that video. I'm gonna give you a brief introduction of myself, but first, I want you guys to check on the videos, and then we're gonna start socializing what we do. Can be at home if you are a mom, so if that means that you are responsible for the household, everything that happened there. If you are a student, so dependent student on your parents, I want you to start thinking on that. If you already have a part-time job or a full-time job, start thinking, how can you challenge the process from the status that you're playing right now, any position that you already have, okay? So let's watch that short video that we do have, and then we're gonna start our interaction, and then I'm gonna go deep into the topic.
I grew up in the Bronx, on 182nd and Grand Concourse to be exact. It's still the same place I go back to today when I visit my dad. Try to get up there at least once a month. And it was a predominantly Dominican community, so I had a chance to really embrace that culture here in New York, up in New York. From everything from going to the local bodega, to run errands on the weekends to buy the plátanos, you know, for the mango and the breakfast during the weekend, to watching the annual Dominican parade on Grand Concourse, sitting on my fire escape as a kid. And it was a great place to grow up in. Every time I walk into the White House, I not only feel the responsibility to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can in my job, but in many ways I feel the weight of my community and my family walking with me. My main role is to work with mayors and local elected officials across the country. However, that said, if you're a Latino in the White House, you know, you end up forming part of a group of folks from different offices that ultimately, you know, support on issues that impact the Latino community, whether it's on the issue of immigration reform, for example, or whether it's the issue of the My Brother's Keeper initiative, which is meant to influence and impact boys and young men of color. I mean, it's something that when you come to the table and when you're working on policies, when you're working on engagement, you can't help but draw on where you're from and who you are and who you become. I had a chance to brief the president in the Oval Office, and as I prepared to go into the Oval Office, I was making sure that I knew the memo from, you know, back to front. And when I walked in and my then boss introduced me, he said, you know, this is Mr. President, this is Elias Alcantara. He's been working on this phone call on the My Brother's Keeper initiative effort. And I remember distinctly, the president was at his desk and he looked over and his first question was, have we officially met before? And I said, no, Mr. President, I don't think we have. And he actually asked me to come over to his desk and he put out his hand and shook my hand. And he said, it's a pleasure to meet you. Tell me something about yourself. And I couldn't help but say, the first thing that came to mind was, Mr. President, I'm actually from the Bronx, New York. And the president kind of chuckled and said, the Bronx, that's a fine place to be from, the Bronx. And it was in that moment that I realized that all the sacrifices my parents made coming to this country and all the work that I had done up until this point was actually worth it, because here I was, a first-generation American kid from the Bronx, having the chance to brief the President of the United States on an effort that's obviously incredibly important for him and for this administration. I've had a chance to bring in, at this point over the years, probably a few hundred young youth. I've been able to bring in a few hundred youth from the Bronx and Washington Heights area. You know, diverse set of students, but predominantly Latinos, I would say. And I've had a chance to bring them in and bring them into the White House, showing them, you know, the same hallways that I get to walk in every day.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks.
Yeah, Emily, for that one. And now my question to all of you is, how do you think Elias challenged the process? How do you think Elias challenged the process? Anyone would like to share? Michelle? I think we are froze right now.
Michelle?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Sorry. I'm in a library, so I don't want to click because people walk by.
Okay.
So I don't want them to be on the Zoom in case they didn't want to be on the Zoom, so I apologize.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so I think that he challenged the process by being a Latino from the Bronx, becoming educated and presenting himself in certain opportunities, because they misjudge people of color and they don't think that you should be from the Bronx or you should be Latino or you should be African American in certain positions. So by him just going through the entire process and being in the White House, he's challenged their norm, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share something? Okay. So Elias, I think some of you know that already because when we do tours on campus, we share that things that Elia was a Lehman student and also he went through the leadership classes. So many of the, I will say, resources that we have now on campus that the student can use, like the career closet, the pantry, was ideas that come out of student leaders like Elias. So he was part of that group during 2016, I believe it was. He even brought President Obama. That was another way that he challenged the process. Like, I can make sure that my people on the Bronx meet the president in person. So he brought President Obama to Lehman campus. So a lot of people on the news was like a walk into the Bronx. That was probably the first time that a lot of people visited the Bronx, mandataries and people with money, right? In our communities, because sometimes we are afraid of saying, I'm from the Bronx, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm a Latino, I'm an African American. My mom doesn't speak English. When we do that, we are showing other people that we are challenging the process. That it doesn't matter your background, you're making a changes in your community. Every time you make sure that like there's no garbage around. We know that something that we have in our minorities community is a garbage problem everywhere. But we also are responsible for that because when we're walking with garbage in our bags or just holding a water bottle, we dump it in any place without making sure that we are dropping that in the proper place. But as a leaders, we have to think that leaders shouldn't be afraid of making changes or challenging other people or asking questions. We have so many norms in society that we never think on asking questions about it or telling our mom starting at home, any parents, like, why I have to be doing that exactly where you do it? What is the benefit for me when society is changing so much? That is how we challenge the process. How we challenge the process at Lehman. I'm so glad to see here senators, new senators and past senators in this class because you challenge the process the same way. If you are a senator, you cannot go to the meeting all the time to say yes every time they ask like who agree and who doesn't agree. And then they go raise your hands and then or reply to this and you don't even read the minutes that they sent weeks before. So we talk about that in the leadership that some of you were there too. You have to go prepared. Yes, Christian? Okay. So as a senator, we have to be asking questions all the time to make sure that what they are doing is something that benefit not you as a senator, but the whole school, because you represent every single student on campus. We have 30,000 students, and senator are how many? 34 senators. So we have to make sure that that function that you're playing, that title, so benefit everybody, right? So that's why you have to be going around, looking at the news, reading the manual. I know David has manual, and I believe Emily will share that with you. If you are not a senator, how are you going to challenge the process? Making sure that those senators are getting a stipend, but they are also representing you. If they just go there and sit there, they are not challenging the process. They just sitting there holding a title, but they are not moving forward, right? Any petition that probably or situation that the campus is experiencing. So I want you guys to start thinking on that. How you can challenge the process every time you go to a classroom, when there's something happening with a student that probably has a certain situation or condition, and then that professor is not supporting that student, or there's no method set up at school for that student to have those basic needs, met by that professor for that student to take that class, right? So we have to make sure that every time, everywhere we move, we challenge the process. That is really important. So another thing that I want you guys to keep on your mind is also that as a leaders, we are not only representing our community. I can say, oh, I'm Dominican, there's a Dominican in the White House, or I'm Puerto Rican, we have a judge in the court, right? So we have somebody representing you, or Sotomayor, or an African, so Michelle Obama was there as a first lady, right? That is amazing. But even Michelle Obama teaches that for us to challenge the process, we have to question the norm that has been established. One way that she did it was finding out that in the White House, there have passed so many African-American women, but there was not opportunity for youngest one. Only those with a name established were working there, right? She opened the doors of the White House. She became a mentor for those women to visit the White House, and then she was teaching them. So a way of being a role model that you guys already saw that, right? You guys can also challenge the process in your community and inside campus. So I want you to start thinking in every single way that you can do that, because I'm going to be asking more questions at the end, right? So, but I want you to think also on the importance of innovation, because when we challenge the process, we have to innovate. So you have to be creative. Most of the training that I give to camp, that I'm so glad that Emily willing participate on them, like I leading my camp people for them to become a better service and community supported as a mentors for every single student like you on campus, is that I always tell them, give me feedback. A leader have to be open to feedback. You cannot challenge a process without having followers, right? Or colleagues telling you how well you are doing in the process, or things that you need to change because instead of benefiting, they are affecting. And feedback is always important. So we have to be open to that, to make changes in what we believe that can be better for our future, right? Generation, not only for us sitting there right in the office or in the classroom, but for those that are going to be sitting after you, because that is the importance of challenging the process. If you only challenging the process because it benefits you, there's no sense on that. You know, we have personal motivation, but we also have to have external ones. Oh, sorry. We also have to have external motivation. That way we can improve what we're doing in every single right opportunity that we have. Just give me 1 second to move this little dog from. So to continue with you guys, I'm sorry for the interruption. So this is my first time having a pet at home. So he's challenging me all the time with that barking when I'm in a meeting. So sorry for that interruption. So challenging the process, as the name said, it is a process. Never we start in a first day with the changes. First, the idea comes, and then you start writing new ideas, developing new ideas, and then sharing those ideas. That's something really important. You cannot challenge the process yourself. Nobody has go from being just a regular student to the president of the school without going through so many other stages. So first you're gonna be a student, then you're gonna graduate, you're gonna go to grad school, you're gonna meet now colleagues. They are not only students like you that you will say classmate. Now you're changing the title, you're gonna say colleagues, meaning that those are people that are working with you with a common in purpose, right? With a purpose in common, each of you, and then you're gonna move from there to any other position. So that's how we escalate, right? Step by step. So we need others, we need teamwork. So that's how we can challenge the process. Nobody has done it, as I said at the beginning, by themselves. So I'm considering that I have a person that I admire so much, that I think Emily will love him so much too. That is Simon Sinek. I always play one of his videos. I won't do that today, but I would like to know, just by raising your hand, how many of you has an iPhone? I want to see that. You can raise your hand in the camera physically, or just like by posting it in the chat. I want to know how many of you has iPhone. Let's see. Only one person has iPhone. That's surprising. 2, 3, okay. Only 3 people? 3 of you? That's gonna be so surprising, because every time I walk on campus, I only see iPhone. So anybody else with any other technology? That's a yes, right? Samsung, any other?
I'm seeing in the chat too, people saying I have, me.
Okay. So probably the majority of you has, but if not, you have Samsung. So I'm not trying to promote one or the other. I just want to mention that one of the devices that he promoted, because when you're challenging the process, you have to sell yourself first, right? I'm gonna tell you my story. That way you can start thinking of yours. How was my way that I challenged the process? I start as a Lehman student. Listen to this. I start as a Lehman student, being already a mom, married, right? 2 kids. If I say one, it will be like, oh, one is easy to deal with, especially if you've been in a classroom with so many others, or you have more than 3 siblings. It's easy to have one child, right? So, but I have 2 kids, and a husband that I have to be dealing with, plus my classes and every single professor, that each professor is different, right? But outside that, I was an HRA student. Some of you has no idea what is that, but that's meaning that what we were making as an income was not enough for our family, right? I have to go for government support. That is something that in my family, we don't see it as a kind of support to be proud of, because so many society has rules has tell us, oh, when you are in government assistance, that meaning that you surviving from the government, you are not working, you are a lazy person. But we have a lot of students at any CUNY and so many private institutions that they work so hard, but because we want to live in New York, close to our family, and rent is so expensive, and the food that we buy, not every single day you can buy fresh produce. So you have to use their community resources. So, and when you are new in the country, you have no idea that from your money that you're paying every single week taxes, there are so many other community resources. We have like a Goodwill that some of you know that you can go and get clothes for cheap, right? That you pay for that we have Unique, that we have the Salvation Army, that we have a career closet at Lehman. Like all those resources were there, but I was not aware of them. Why? Because I was walking from school to home, from home to work, and then go to the childcare to college to pick up your kids, go back home, and then the same routine, because Lehman is a commuter school. What we mean by a commuter school, that no students stay on campus. They have to come from home or from work, go to Lehman, and then go back home. So then I find out that at the student life, they were giving support to a student like me. And then I was like, okay, this is my moment for me to close this case that I do have with the government and then start doing something better for my community. So I start applying for volunteer opportunities on campus in my community, like the Jewish Home Hospital, that there's a lot of elderly people that have family, but the family cannot take care of them. And because I love service, I decided to go there for opportunity too. So I was like giving my name and my product that is service, get well known in the community, right? For you to sell your service, you have to give kind of tips. You see, in the Caribbean, we say una ñapa, right? And I don't know how you would translate that in America when you say, can you give me something extra? Imagine that you're buying 3 pounds of rice, but you want people to give you some little extra rice in those 3 pounds that you bought, right? That's what we call una ñapita, right? I was giving everybody a little taste of my flavor, that it was the service for my community. So, and then Suzette told me one day, oh my God, Patricia, you are amazing. You know, what do you think if I give you a part-time job? And I was like, really? And then the first week she saw me working and interacting with the students, she told me, you know something? You don't even you don't even need to go to the leadership process. You're gonna be a mentor. And I was like, oh no, you cannot throw me there. So I come back home and I tell that to my family, and they say, you know, you have never been like a scared or afraid of public speaking. Why you just don't jump? And because you believe that God help you everywhere you go as a Christian, so you know you're gonna fly. And I was like, okay, that's one of the promises that we have there as a Christian, right? That you don't have to be Christian to believe on that, but if you have a kind of inner motivation, you will go anywhere. Nobody can stop you. And that's something really important. So I start challenging my own process with my example. So I start working hard. If Suzette give me 20 hours, I will be working 21 or 22 just to support all the students that were in my same condition, going back to CUNY-H. And back then we didn't have Jacqueline. We have a different person there supporting the student. Her name was Tara Carson. And I told Tara, you know, Tara, I need to close this case. I'm already in another position and I just want to move forward. If anybody come asking about me, let them know that I'm the student life. So that's how people start interacting with me. And Suzette presenting me to other department, and the department starts saying, a register office, oh, I would like her to be working here. And then Suzette told me, you know something, I'm going to give you a better position. So you're going to be working as a pantry coordinator. So as a pantry coordinator, I noticed that most of the Lehman students were so afraid of visiting the pantry and carrying the bag that used to say food bank. You know, that kind of orange bag that has a big letter saying food bank, that when you walk on your community, you're telling everybody that you went through a food bank in the community. So what was my way that I challenged the process as a coordinator? I was going out on the field. It doesn't matter that it was raining, that it was cold, that there was so many people looking at me. I was there for each of you. For those students that were also before you, And I told the community, was the student, right, that I also was representing, one of them, before you start classes, you pay for this service, because that part of that money comes from your student activity. So I want each of you to be aware of that. Sometimes you don't want to go to the pantry because you think you're asking them to give you something. Yes, we are providing every single one of you a service, but you're also paying for that service. And you have to be grateful because so many other schools don't have that. So challenge the process by also using the pantry, because then you're going to tell the director that is there, you have to look for partners, you have to look for more food, because now the community that is using the pantry is bigger than the community that Patricia used to have before. I used to have 200 students weekly. I don't know how many students he has now, but Lehman has 30,000 students. So we haven't get to that challenge yet that the community have to go outside and say, we need more donors. We have to expose our students. I even went outside in downtown Manhattan to speak with the president of our college, that it is the same president that we have right now, and speak about how important is food insecurity to be met for the students. So we need people to be fighting for that. I was challenging the process in any way that was open for me. I was not afraid to say, oh, for the Lehman student, for my community, it doesn't matter that I have my Spanish accent, I will be there. So I was doing that speaker, telling everybody how was my life, how Lehman changed my life for me to start giving a different service now as a student specialist. So that's another challenge that I do have on my life. But it's because I took every single one that I have before that other people rejected, probably because they were seeing like, oh, that title that nobody wants, just providing food to students. But when I received the pantry, it was just a line that you used to make, right? And that's it. You pick up your food and go. But what happened? I challenged the process, as I've been telling you guys. I started asking the student for quotes. Tell me, how do you feel here? Tell me what I can do better. I start sending service out. I start posting anonymous service on campus, meaning that you can tell me from how amazing was my service to how bad I was doing my service, because feedback is about that. So you have to listen everybody. You cannot choose who will say good thing about you, because otherwise you won't grow, And for you to challenge the process and to grow and implement new ideas in your community, on your institution, you have to hear both sides. You can only listen what is nice. We have to go for those that we don't want, we want to cover our ears, what they say that, can they be more polite? Yes, but not everybody has the opportunity to have parents that they are adequately prepared to give you the politeness that you need, right? And that's part of growing too. So we start using a different vocabulary. We start saying good morning to every single person we see around us, even though that person don't reply to you, but it's part of your manners. So everybody have different characteristics. And we have to adapt that process that we want to challenge to each individual, meaning my characteristic and my personalities, I have to adapt to that. And now that I use that word adaptation is also part of challenging the process. Imagine a leader that every time, that happened in my country, so I'm going to use that as example. If I'm Republican in my country, right? Let's say that I'm part of the purple group, so we have different politic groups over there. So, and I say that I'm purple. If the purple president doesn't win the election, you know what happened? Every single people that is working during that time, let's say that we are in 2020, by 2021, all those people are gonna be sent out home, and then whoever win the white partitions, or is the blue, or is the black, they're gonna come and lead the country, and then you're gonna start thinking, what is happening in this country? We have the first university that was instituted in America. Imagine, I'm not saying Central America, I'm not saying the Caribbean, I'm saying America. The American continent is huge. I can mention so many countries, right? But what was my way to challenge the process? I was creating communities on my own communities, right? That we can say, no, 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 no. It doesn't matter which government win. In this state that I live, we're gonna fight that everybody that is prepared to work will be working. So at Lehman, we do the same thing. If you see that staff that is working, how are you gonna challenge the process by saying the president, you have to throw that person away from the office and then hire me? No, we don't do that. What we said is like, I have been in the office so many times, and I do feel that my needs are not met every time I go there. So what the president will think, or whoever is the director for the office, okay, I need training for my staff. Because that's what a leader supposed to do. Are all leaders doing that transformation all the time? No. Because sometimes we are in communities, we are surrounded by students, by family members, by friends that doesn't challenge us as a leader. So we need people that challenge us all the time. That's the only way we can grow. If next to you, you have somebody that every time you do something, they don't like what you're doing, but they go, yes, you did great. You are amazing, because you want to be part of the group. You're not helping yourself, and you also not helping the person that you giving the applause, right? So we have to be aware of that. It is really important. Emily, you let me know, because I love to talk. When I have to stop, let me know.
Maybe 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. So
Mm.
then I'm going to take those 5 more minutes, because I want feedback. Think about why, how, and what you want to challenge on campus or to us as a staff. So I would like to hear some feedback, because I'm going to be taking notes. As you student specialist, I want to hear your voice. Your voice is important to me. So I want, when you go on campus and you start seeing changes in the community, some students were telling me, oh my God, when I go to the building, you know, it's alive. We have decoration, but it's something missing. I don't know what, but you know, we need more stuff. I don't know what. And I was like, okay, that person was not sure, but let me put messages there, leadership messages, to see which leadership message you identify with. But attached to that, let me add some benches around. And then Susan was like, oh, Patricia, I like the idea of benches. Let's put colors, caution. I think Emily throws some ideas, and now some of those caution has some messages also written on it. So I want to hear that. It's not only how comfortable you are, because I don't want you to stay at the student life building or to be working at Lehman only. I want you to get out of your zone of comfort, which for those 15, 70 years, I will say how much, because now you're going to start counting. Let me see how old she is. That I can experience also in other communities, and see like how they navigate their own system. But I do love Lehman. I always will come back to Lehman. So now let me be clear, because I don't want to set that idea on you. I'm not thinking on leaving Lehman right now. I'm just saying futures ideas, right? Because as a student, I want you guys to fly, that see outside Lehman, see what other people are doing in other communities, you know, for us to grow. So I have like a 3 more minutes of those 5 that you gave me. So give me some feedback, why you want to see there as a student that we are not doing, and you want to see those changes, because I'm going to start writing what you tell me, okay? Ideas, I'm seeing some hands there. Christian, yes? Christian, I think he has his hand there, but it looked like he's in class too. Anybody else? I saw Christian, I have Dayara, right?
Yes.
Yes. May you
So
please?
I actually learned this from another professor. She was introducing us about the SBDC. So it's like the Small Business Development Center. If I'm not saying that right, please correct me.
Okay.
But in regards to leadership, I think all students should know about this resource, because there's a lot of people that wants to excel in a different field. So it's nice to have this kind of resource if ever they want to like make something of their own, because not everyone wants to be an employee. They want to learn how to grow their own businesses. And I think those people who are successful with this organization, the SBDC were reaching out to them, and they were able to fund um, something for Lehman, or like the development of the campus. So that's good. I think if more people enter this kind of my brain is not breathing, but you see I was yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Also, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because at Lehman, we do have a department that help the student. Even they help you with budgets, like connected with other offices that can give you a kind of grant or loan for you to start your own business, and they prepare you. So I'm gonna make sure that Emily William can share that information with all of you, so that get to you. I think Emily have access to that.
I
You
do.
cannot And
Yeah.
Emily is full of resources. Even myself, I reached out to her. But we also have a program coordinator now that her name is Mary Morphe. She's gonna be more active on campus starting on October. So we just hired her recently. And some of you know her already because she created the Club Empower You, but she's gonna be working on that soon. So that on campus pathway, you will see her tabling here and there for everybody to get to know the different resources we have on campus. Anybody else before I said thank you very much? Hi.
I see a question. It's kind of going back to the other thing. While people think about ways to that you want to see change in the student life building or Lehman College campus, Christian asks, does challenging this, is it the same as challenging the status quo?
Yes, it is. When people say the status quo, they are no more outside of saying, you see those norms that are being established, that most people are scared, like what society said to us, what our parents said to us, past generation create those norms, and sometimes we are scared of changing that. At the front desk have to be a nice lady with glasses and smiling, telling welcome, for example. So now we have different people from different cultures, right? With different hair color. Doesn't have to be the blonde lady we used to see before. It can be somebody like me, like Emily, like Michelle. And that is a way of challenging, right? That is status quo. It's like whatever happened in the past need to be changed. That's what we mean by that. Thank you, Kristen. That was a great question. So Emily, I know that I'm already 4:07. I was supposed to stay until 4. But every time I come to this class, because I took this class with our past boss, Michael Sullivan, and it was amazing. And I have grown so much. And I learned to love Lehman through each of you, through every single student that were during my time and previous time coming back and saying, you know, Lehman have given me this. I'm this person today or going and give back to my community because of my family values and what Lehman process has marked my life with. So thank you very much again, Emily, for this amazing class that we have every single semester. Thank to you because you are the one that organized this together with our team. So and each of you, please keep growing. So thank you, Michelle, for you. Thank you right there in the message. And I wish to see each of you visiting me in person and bring you ideas. I'm more than happy. So I have a box for suggestion that you can use it at any time, okay?
Thank you so much, Patricia. And yes, if anybody, if you think of stuff later on, or if you're signing in like asynchronously and watching this, visit Patricia. She's in the student life building. She's amazing. She loves ideas, and she takes your ideas and she actually implements them. Just anything that could support you, anything that can make you feel comfortable, because that's a part of challenging the process. We want to be able to make those changes so that we can have a more inclusive, diverse community. What hours can we meet here in the student life building?
And I'm at the Student Life building. So Monday I work remote, but also I share my link. If you go and check my information, you will see that there's a link to make appointments. So I see it all the time. Sometimes I goes like, oh my God, who's this student that is expecting me at 9 a.m.? They don't sleep. No, but at that time I'm already working. So we start from 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesdays, and Friday. And Wednesdays and Thursday, we work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can reach out to me. So I will see your appointment right there on my calendar because it goes directly to my calendar. So thank you very much for having me, and you're more than welcome to make your appointment at any time, okay, during that schedule.
Thank you, Patricia. And I'm gonna be posting, I'm seeing a lot of stuff. Oh, thank you, Chris. Christian is always on top of it. Thank you. If you need to make an appointment with her, her contact information's in the chat right now. I'm going to save this and post it also in our asynchronous class. Thank you again, Patricia.
I think I'm gonna make you my assistant.
Yes, he's
no pay
on
right
top
now.
of it. Patricia, he is great.
Thank you very much, guys. So keep taking advantage of this opportunity. Know every single student, as a student was saying before, I think it was Dayara, has the opportunity to go through every single kind of training that we do have. But please access the Lehman website. Every single opportunity is there. You just have to navigate. If not, come to us. We're here to help you navigate. Great afternoon for each of you. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Patricia. On that note, we will be leading into our next session of public speaking. So, this is actually, oh no, what happened? Okay, this is actually our final, not the final public speaking, but it's the final formal workshop where I'm giving you tips and tricks on how to do public speaking. And this week is essentially big speeches. This is how to do essentially a TED Talk. And I talk specifically a lot about TED Talk because the applications to do a TED Talk are coming up around November. So giving you this information so that you can start thinking about it and processing it. Starting next week, we will be doing more hands-on practice. So we will be breaking out into small sessions and just talking to others who are attending this workshop. Just getting to know them, because starting small, like first in the workshop, is how you start getting used to talking. And you can actually start talking about, like, you know, who you are, what you're passionate about, and it can help clarify, help you think about what maybe if you do want to do a TED Talk, what you want to focus on. So that'll be for next week. And I encourage everybody to, you know, maybe go through the PowerPoints up until this point to see, you know, just to remind you of some things. If you're tuning in asynchronously, since you're not coming and participating, I just encourage you, maybe come to the Student Life Building, talk to family, friends, and start doing a similar thing. But we'll be following up with what to do for that next week. So I want to start also by doing a recap of just, you know, some of these things we've already discussed, but 5 public speaking tips to speak with confidence, because especially if you're speaking with a big group, it can be a little nerve-wracking. So I will start with this.
Hi, I'm Ramona J. Smith, Toastmasters International 2018 World Champion of Public Speaking. I'm here to share some tips to help you feel more confident when you deliver a speech. I know firsthand that speaking in front of an audience is one of the most demanding situations you can face. Yet, I'm one of millions of people who Toastmasters has helped gain the confidence to communicate in all circumstances. We'll review some time-tested techniques to help you prepare so that you feel empowered. When you incorporate these 5 crucial tips as you plan and deliver your next speech, you'll have an easier time and your audience will get more out of the experience. 1. Know your subject. Now, if you want to overcome nervousness, the first guideline is simply to know what you're talking about. You'll have an easier time giving a speech on a subject if you know the subject well. Want to speak about your favorite musician? Read verified information about them that you can find online or at your library. When you become an authority on your topic, the audience will want to learn what they can from you. And you won't have to struggle to keep your messages straight if you know the message well. Once you've mastered your topic, you need to master your presentation. Make sure you rehearse the entire speech so you will be more comfortable presenting it. And practice any difficult parts repeatedly until they flow smoothly. Whether or not you memorize each word, you should make sure you know the order of your messages. That's why new Toastmasters members begin with the icebreaker speech. It's a chance to talk about the subject you know best, yourself. Then all you have to focus on is practicing how well you tell your story. 2. Know your audience and your space. Understand the importance of knowing who will be listening to you and where you will be when you give your presentation. Both the audience and location can create limitations that are important to understand. For example, a researcher might speak about the math behind their work. If they're addressing a group of college professors, they could use highly technical language to discuss a sophisticated project. But would they want to do that if they were describing their work to a group of elementary students? Of course not. For young kids, it would be better to talk about how we learn through the research process. Knowing your audience means understanding and respecting their particular characteristics. Before you prepare your speech, their geography, politics, culture, age, and other traits will define them as a group and will guide you in tailoring your presentation to fit their needs. Preparation reaches beyond understanding your audience. You need to also consider how they will experience your speech. For example, when you present to an in-person audience, be sure to check out your location before the event begins. Will there be enough space on stage for everything you need? If you're planning to use any media that requires a monitor or a screen, is the venue aware? Do they have everything you require? If your presentation will be online or hybrid, have you learned everything you need to know about the app you will use? Can you access chat? Will it be turned off or will someone else facilitate that feature for you? All these questions are important to answer before you start your presentation. 3, keep going. There's no need to apologize if you make a minor mistake, such as skipping a portion of your speech or forgetting a few words. If something like this happens, don't worry. Your audience most likely doesn't know the difference. Just move on and you'll find your way back on track with your next point. If you apologize, you call attention to the mistake, which takes away the important point you want to make. An advanced speaker knows how to guide the audience's attention toward the important parts and away from the small stuff. Whether you make a mistake or not, just remember that people want you to succeed. And because of that, they're rooting for you. It helps to remember this with the next tip. 4, imagine yourself giving a great speech. A great way to find success is to visualize it. Give yourself time for this important form of preparation. See yourself making clear, valid points with appropriate gestures and body language that emotionally connects you with your audience. Once you see yourself using what works, you'll feel more relaxed and confident. And don't forget to imagine pausing while your audience applauds wildly. 5, focus on your message, not on yourself. Some beginning speakers let their nervousness win because they make the mistake of focusing entirely on themselves. When something goes wrong, for example, your reaction can cause your voice to shake. Then all you hear is a shaky voice that becomes the focus of your thoughts. Remember, you're giving a talk for a reason. Keep that reason in mind and focus on what's really important, your message. Find the passion to entertain, educate, inspire, or motivate your audience, and you'll find a purpose and your voice.
So just to go over that a little bit, I really wanted to emphasize some of the things that she mentioned. One of them is the last one, of your voice. Focus on your message, not on yourself. As I've been emphasizing in this workshop, I was incredibly shy. And I could not imagine standing up in front of an auditorium of people for TED, for the TED Talk. And the reason why I applied was because of my message. I felt that it was important to get the message across of things that I was studying in classes, and things that I thought, could actually make effective change. So focusing on that actually helped me say, I'm going to do this because my message is more important to make that effective change, because it'll actually improve people's quality of life. I'll talk a little bit more about my TED Talk in a moment, but then on the topic, but then going back to the third item she talked about is, if you forget something, keep going. I actually had a situation during my actual TED Talk where I froze. I got distracted because they tell the audience members not to take pictures, and somebody had their flash on and it just totally wiped my mind, and I could not remember my next line. And I took a moment. When I asked people afterwards, they were just like, "Oh, we thought you were just being like dramatic pause, like we were really like, what is she gonna say next?" Um, because I was actually telling a part of my story that was like talking about like my personal journey and how it was, really traumatic, and how it tied into these things. And people didn't notice, and I just, whatever came next, I remembered. I caught on to that. People didn't even know that I missed a part of my TED Talk, and that's okay. People won't notice that. They'll just, it's the overall message that's important. So this was my TED Talk. TEDx CUNY. When you have X in any TED Talk, if you don't know, that means that it's independent. They're usually collaborating with the TED Talk, and it's usually a college or another venue that is partnering with TED. So I was a part of the TEDx CUNY Unraveling Conference, and my TED Talk was The Foundations of Health, or Unraveling the Foundations of Health. As you see, mine was on nutrition-based health, lifestyle changes, and self-advocacy. I tied in all of these things, my leadership journey, focusing on my majors with, anthropology. So I pulled some of the things that I learned from that. My nutrition, I pulled some of those things from that. My health education, but also my personal story. It's not posted yet online because they are actually, because this is an actual, it's a big conference. They're actually, because I use so many facts, they're actually checking to see if it's reliable sources that I did fact checking. So it's not published yet, but they did say that it's going to be published soon. It's checking out. So when it is published, I will share it with you. So TED Talk, oh, before I go into that, I did see in the chat people asking about Google Classroom. We will discuss that if you need help accessing Google Classroom. We'll talk about that after this segment of public speaking. Oh, no, sorry. So what is TED Talk? TED Talk is a conference where you have, you're considered an amateur expert or an expert within your field. Everybody is technically an expert because we all have a wealth of knowledge of experiences. And so TED Talk essentially is tying in different ideas together to formulate new concepts. And that's why they're so famous and popular, because it's like, this is something where you're adding these different ideas, stringing them together, yet it's like one of those like eureka moments of like, oh, I didn't know that. So again, what is a TED Talk? So they're well-formed ideas under 18 minutes. So it says here why 18 minutes, because it works. But if we have anybody here that's into has any training on like education and things like that, usually if you have people's attention for about 12 to 18 minutes, usually after that people start, when is this going to end? You know? And so that's why like actually changing up different concepts, playing videos, playing, you know, doing PowerPoint slides, you know, shifting into role playing and things like that actually can keep people's attention and bring them back into what you're actually trying to convey. So that's why TED Talks, if you go over 18 minutes in a TED Talk, you won't be published. So it's really important that you stay below 18 minutes, and I think it's over 12 minutes. Okay, so some guidelines. I'm putting in a few little things here and there because I'd like some people to apply for TED Talk, and so you just have this information while you're thinking about writing your TED Talk and gathering ideas. Number one, you can't have any commercial agendas. You can't have any political agendas, no religious agendas, and no bad science. So going into a little bit of these is like I just mentioned with mine, I had a lot of facts. They had to check those, whether those were real or not, or if I made them up. So I had to cite everything. Pretty much when I sent in my draft, I actually had to have like, it was almost like a well-written paper of like, this is where I got this from, this journal article. You don't have to do that, but if you're having a lot of facts, they need that. No political, no religious agendas, just because you don't know who your audience is going to be and you might offend somebody. And this is more of a broad concept. And no commercial agendas where it's just like, buy my book and things like that, because it's more about the ideas. Okay, so what makes a great TED Talk? So it's not just a personal story. Your personal story can tie into it. How you got there, why you know, what you were feeling and whatnot. I actually started with my personal story. I started with, you know, basically being sick and being able to get more of a handle on things through nutrition, through lifestyle changes. I was bedridden and I was having 40 seizures a day. So I actually, one of my transitioning was what changed. I'm here on the stage, you know, what changed? And then I led into the science, was the middle part of my TED Talk. So it's stringing these different ideas together. It's not just a lecture. You actually want to enable people to think, so what? Why does this matter? Why is it important to tell people these things? So that should be the focus. What is the importance of people knowing this information? A TED Talk is idea-based. It's essentially just, you know, different ideas. Like even if you know a specific fact, if you have something that you want to develop associated with that, you can tie that into your TED Talk. So like for example, with mine, I actually was tying into some facts of like how like with our diets, it's not so much like our food. You actually have like, if you strip away different nutrients from the diet, if you're not getting like your herbs and things like that, and we used to historically eat like hundreds and thousands of different varieties, things weren't stripped of nutrients. That's actually, you know, what's contributing to our poor health today. Even though there's nothing that really states that particularly like in popular, you know, media and whatnot, that was something I based off of some journal articles and things like that through my education. So tying in those different things. Connecting with the theme. Usually when you first do a TED Talk, they're not going to tell you the name of the conference. They try to make it as broad as they can so that it could apply to anything. So mine was, the conference that I was a part of was Unraveling. So trying to take a, you know, going to the different surface and different ideas and making these things. When I wrote my TED Talk, I did not have the topic. And so they actually had to, I had to tie that in afterwards. In interacting with the audience. So there was a part in my TED Talk where I asked people to raise their hand. I was asking how many people that you know in your life suffers from a chronic disease, maybe diabetes or cancer. How many people of you know somebody that died from a stroke? And I waited. And originally in my TED Talk, I said, I just went into, I do too, you know, and I led into my dad's story. My dad did pass from a stroke. When I saw people raising their hands, though, I acknowledged those people. So being flexible with that and interacting with them. And, you know, I set a moment for them also and being like, I'm sorry to hear that and whatnot. Just to acknowledge those people. So being able to interact with them, that people then feel more engaged in that connectiveness and they feel a part of your talk. And then being authentic. You know, you're writing stuff, you're speaking about things that are a part of you that is meaningful and important to you. Being able to keep your identity. You're not writing, you know, to sound like a certain specific somebody who gave a great talk. If you want to be able to show who you are through your talk. If I can move. Yes. Trying to see, being creative, different values, start sharing. I'm going to put these in the Google Classroom as well for you to go over. But essentially it's saying the same things over and again, and I do want to be conscious of time. So, okay, so when I applied, again, I hate public speaking, but again, the message was bigger than me. And it also puts you on the map. I mean, you know, when you have on your resume, like I did a TED Talk, especially if it's in the field that you're going into, that makes you an expert. That's pretty legit because you have to go through an application process. And if you are picked for that, then you are recognized as an expert. So highly encourage you to go through this because, you know, after when you are trying to get jobs within your field, it is competitive. So to actually say you did a TED Talk in your field, that's huge. So when you first apply, you write a one-page draft of the outline. I wrote a mini essay. I just wrote it like, here's my, you know, my beginning, my middle, my end, conclusion, tying everything together of just everything that mattered to me within the realm of health. And it wasn't nearby like anything completed when I submitted this. I worked really hard to add to this. I got to, I can't even remember. It was like, I think I got up to 12 pages because I was just like adding more and more information, and I had to cut a lot of content out then afterwards, but just trying to build up those ideas so that I had a really good talk. So, and then here's a little bit of the timeline. So about early November, end of October, that's when applications started. Right now, I know for a fact that they're trying to onboard a team. So even if you're not interested in doing a TED Talk, you could join the team and actually help coach people or like help volunteer. It's a huge event. So even putting that on your resume, saying like I volunteered or I was a coordinator at the TEDx CUNY, can be hugely beneficial. So if you're interested in that, I'll also put that in the Google Classroom if you would like to do that. But if you want to do the actual TED Talk, I don't think you could do both of them at the same time. So, but just another option for you. First draft was November 27th. Then there was December, a lot of editing. Essentially, it got to the point towards the end of the fall semester, had to meet like once a month for in-person rehearsals. And then I was doing weekly with my Zoom. I was actually assigned a curator. They call them a curator, but she was really a mentor. She was keeping me giving a lot of feedback, saying like, I really like this in your TED Talk. Can you actually elaborate on that? Like, I want to hear more of that. So in my original, I actually did not have my dad's story in my TED Talk. But as we were talking, she's like, that would be really good to tie that in. And so you actually meet with them and you practice. So you have a lot of support if you're doing this. And when you first start going for in-person, you're reading. They want to see how you're interacting and just getting used to talking in front of people. So it's a very supportive and slow process. So it's not like, okay, go ahead. Yeah, so and then as the spring semester progresses, then I think it was because my TED Talk was early April. So in March, I was having weekly in-person sessions, but because of my health issues, they were very flexible. So I was able to do some Zoom and it's not like you have to do this. Yeah. But yeah, it's everything to help prompt you and to help you with your TED Talk. So what makes a good talk? Essentially, it's everything that we've been mentioning, like, you know, having a basic idea, something compelling, something interesting, and then actually tying it to other things in your life, other things you've heard, connecting these ideas. What is the importance of that? So when you write your first draft, these are things that you're thinking of, and it helps you come to a larger conclusion. So is your idea ready? Is your idea new? Basing it on things that you've heard, you've read. Is it interesting? You could get feedback when you talk to friends and family. Hey, is this something that you'd want to hear about? Is it realistic? Thinking of these things as you're writing your concept can be very beneficial in having your first draft for your TED Talk. So then making an outline for your script. Here you explain your idea, you describe the evidence, you have a call to action. This is where in your TED Talk, you're giving ideas, but then you also want to engage people. So my call to action was connecting with your community, voting for better food policies, because they can push health incentives, doing research on those things, investigating politicians in your area, with organizations. A lot of people are already doing these things. So connecting with people so that you can actually get that experience, but also contribute then. Looking into other communities and seeing what they're doing. And I tied a lot of my work to Japan and also Finland because they believe that food is a basic human right. So investigating that and then advocating for those in your community. So these were things that I was actually tasking people to do within my TED Talk. You don't need to do this for your first draft, but it's just things to think about. How would you make these changes? If based on the ideas that you're presenting. And then reinventing the new reality, which draws to the call of action. If we had this, we can actually support people's quality of life, painting that picture for people, because it is possible. And when you do that, it inspires people. And that's also why TED Talks are like amazing, because it's those, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this can happen, and it can happen. So building up to that. Again, you don't need this for your first draft, but this is just the process of a TED Talk. So your introduction, having a strong introduction is crucial. I said, I believe it was last week, I started with my health thing, my health experience, talking about going through 40 seizures a day and like, how I'd go into respiratory arrest. That grabbed a lot of people's attention because it's like one of those, oh my God, how are you still here kind of thing. So thinking about, um, having a strong thing, it could be fun. It could be funny. And then you lead into your question right after, or your topic. So I was talking about my health stuff, and then I got into, so what changed? And then I started talking about things that I'd done and how that ties into health, what we've taught and things like that. My throat is starting to go. Feel it. On that note, I'm going to do a 1-minute break if you don't mind, so I could get a cough drop and drink. So give me a moment.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys. It's allergy season for me, so I feel it a lot more. So yeah, I'm going to have my cough drop now. I feel refreshed. Okay, so anyway, so in the body of the email, you talk about your, it's writing a good paper. You're presenting your ideas for your topic, any evidence you have to support those things. Like anything, don't use too much jargon, no slang, no medical terms. It has to be something that anybody can be able to understand because we're trying to reach out to a grander audience. Anybody should be able to watch a TED Talk and be able to know and understand these concepts that you're talking about. And then conclusion, kind of just tying everything together. I mentioned the second bullet point, like it kind of is like the no commercial thing. You can't have like buy my book or things like that. You can use props, but just nothing corporate. I actually had in my TED Talk, it wasn't my conclusion, but I had PowerPoint slides and I actually was showing my medical bills, little snips and pieces. And one of them, I could not show the thing without actually showing the hospital, and I had to actually blur that out because I didn't, you can't have any businesses and things like that, or else you won't get published. You don't want to be like shaming anybody or anything. So it goes the other way too, not just promoting, but it's like damning anything either. They want things to be more of that inspiration. It's the ideas that matter more. And then call to action, if appropriate. Not all of them, it's not a one size fits all. And then from there, after you write your, you draw out, I did maybe like 8 drafts of after the first draft, after I submitted it, my first, the 1-pager application, it turned into like the 12 pages. Then it turned into my script. And I kept deleting and editing and whatnot. So it's 12 minutes, 12 minutes to 18 minutes. Is approximately 2,250 words to 2,700 words. So something you can use, Word document tells you the word count. Being able to also pace yourself. So that's where you use a lot of the pauses and practice. It should be like very flowy. So depending on the days when I got really good, really down, I got to like 14 minutes when I was still like reading it. And not doing pauses, it was like 17 minutes. I was always like, oh, if I do over a minute, like I'm not gonna get it. Even with my pause, like I mentioned, when I forgot my line, I still was under the 18 minutes. So you want a little bit of that leeway when you're thinking about writing your TED Talk. And so this is actually also for developing your ideas. So I submitted my application. I submitted my 1-page draft. And then this was something that they had me do with my curator, my mentor, things to explore, things that are personal, like to add potential. So what? Why is this important? So she actually went through my script, my page and she started putting these little notes and highlights after, and she's like, please elaborate more on this. This will make it like really developed. So a lot of my content, thinking back of like what I submitted initially to how it came out, really, this is where you actually develop stuff after the application process. So it's not all like, what do I submit? See, basic ideas you submit with your application, but then you have a few months to actually develop it into an amazing TED Talk with the support of your curator. Creating slides, what to have, what not to have, should you have slides? I had slides for mine. You want to keep them simple. You don't want to detract from anything from your TED Talk. Not a lot of words. What I had was, I only had words for my call to action. And I actually stated those things in my talk when those calls of actions, just to emphasize this is what you can do. A lot of my stuff were pictures. So I had pictures of me when I was in the hospital. I had pictures of my medical bills, as I mentioned. I had pictures of my dad when I talked about my dad. I wanted people to actually feel my story, and pictures and PowerPoints can actually emphasize that. You shouldn't have so many slides though that detract. I think out of my whole TED Talk, which was, close to 18, I was really pushing it, like the 18 minutes. Out of it, I think I only had 10 slides. And you have the choice too. You can either manually do it yourself, or you could have somebody else do it, so you're not distracted and be like, well, what am I doing? I was intimidated, to be honest, when I was just like, can I like have like notes and things like that? Another thing, when you're doing a TED Talk, you memorize the whole thing. You do not have a prompt. There's nothing to read. There's nothing on your PowerPoint to actually like show you, a cue of like, this is what I talk about now. It is completely memorized, which was extremely intimidating, but you get, again, like a few months to practice. It is hugely doable, especially if you're practicing. I was reading, well, I'll talk about that more of memorization, but yeah, it's possible. But yeah, see if you have something. You could only have one slide if you want. Again, though, no branding, no, things that are copywritten. It has to be like 100%. So the other cool thing was I wanted a picture, a very specific picture. And they actually, the TED Talk team actually drew me a picture, and I put that in my TED Talk. So if you don't have a picture of something, they will make it for you. They basically cater to you in what you need. So that was pretty cool. And rehearsing. Okay, so here's the whole thing of rehearsing. Basically, practicing the whole thing of your posture, your timing, your stage time, all that stuff. This will be here in the Google Classroom as you need it. This is actually taken directly from them. This is this is what they were telling, they were helping to guide. Essentially, you want to, as you're editing your TED Talk, you're just reading it over and over again. I had it in my phone, so if I was traveling anywhere, I would just read it in my head. I was reading it out loud every day for a month. That's how I started. It was just go through the whole thing every day, and you just automatically become familiar with it once you start reading it. You start getting a feel, and it becomes natural of where to take those pauses, and they actually coach you on that too. Like you want more pauses in between ideas, like at the end of sentences and things like that. You're not timing yourself at all during this time. You're just getting used to your own message, your own writing, making edits in between, just exposing yourself. Trying to think if the next memorization is the next slide. And then as time is going on, There's different memorization techniques. Chunking method was my favorite method. That's essentially memorizing section by section. So what I would do is my opening statement. I would reread that over and over and over again. I'd practice. I'd close my eyes. If I forgot something, I'd open it. I'd see, okay, I forgot that. Close my eyes again and see. And you would memorize the first paragraph. And then when you got that down, you memorize the second one. And when you memorize that, you go to the third. And it's a process. It does take time. And then you can actually, when you do that chunking method, memorizing in sections, you can actually just connect, okay, my first paragraph is about my personal history. My second one was about tying it together with, how is this important? My third one was talking about archaeological. If I remembered that, like those sections, it was easier for me to keep on track then. Again, script in the pauses, practice out loud. Don't fixate on the word for word. There will be times when you're reading through your script and you're just like, I forgot to say like this one particular word, just move on. Or you could switch in a word. They're not gonna, be like, oh, you forgot this one particular word, you're out. You want to get to as close as memorizing because it'll help the flow better. But at the same time, I was switching things. I actually would add in like a few little words that I thought were better sounding, that meant the same thing. And that way, if you're fixating, it makes you stop and that builds up that, oh my God, I forgot it. And like, then you're lost. So yeah, you can flip some things if you need. Tap into your community. When I was practicing, I was calling, I actually practiced on Lehman campus when I got to that point. I was like, I'm going to this one event and I'm going to go on stage and practice. So I actually practiced like 2 days beforehand. I was asking people like, how did I do? How did I sound? Asking family members if you could practice in front of them, because that'll get you used to actually talking in front of people as well, practicing your pitch. And that's, further down the line. Put down your script. I had my script in front of me like all the time until like maybe the last week. Then I was pretty confident. Recording yourself. Otter AI is an excellent app for recording classes and things like that. If you're doing interviews, whatever. So I was recording myself and it actually transcribes it as well. And I was able to actually hear myself and see myself and actually go back to see where I actually needed work. And then practice consistently, just making time. If you can read it once a day, twice a day, you should be fine. An hour a day if you're doing the chunking methods. Everybody can try to find time for things like that. So yeah. And then calming your nerves. Visualizing success, shaking it off, stretching, breathing, getting excited. If you're excited, like I'm actually going to do a TED Talk. Oh my God, like that's such a huge accomplishment. Focusing on that, the breathing. There's something called box breathing. If you don't know what it is, you breathe in for the count of 4, hold your breath for 4, and then you breathe out for 4. And then you might hold it again for 4 seconds. And what this does is it calms you down. It's an actual nervous system kind of reset. They actually have apps for it too that actually show like the breathe in, breathe out kind of thing. So I know we're getting close to the time, but I do want to take the time to actually do that. So if anybody wants to practice now, so on the count of 4, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And it helps you reset. You could do this for anything, even like tests and things like that. It's hugely beneficial. Vary your rehearsals, run through your script. Essentially the same thing. You want to switch it up. Sometimes you might feel like, even if you have started memorizing, you might want to be like, I just want to read today. I just, I don't want to try to go through all of that stuff. Making notes of where you need to practice and just focusing on those things. There were times where it was just like, I'm not doing good on my conclusion because that's like the end. So I was just focusing on that. Switch it up wherever you feel like you need, focus on that. All right. And this is the whole thing of to give your talk, inhale, exhale. Just remember if you've practiced so many times and you've done it, you've got it down, you'll get it down. And then there's nothing like actually completing your TED Talk. It's just, there's actually on the Instagram, there's a post. They filmed us before we went on stage, each of us that were doing the last TED Talk. And it's like, this is me before my TED Talk. And everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not gonna get through this. And then they filmed after our TED Talk and we were all just glowing. It's just like, it's one of the biggest accomplishments that you could do in your life. And you feel that. It's just like, I got through that. Overall tips, stick to your schedule. If you're putting in the time to memorize and practice, stick to that. Put it in your calendar, whatever you need to do. You can, if you only have time for 20 minutes a day, do that. Aim for 20 minutes to an hour. Don't get caught up if you mess up. Again, I messed up. And just push through. Nobody else will notice. If you change a word or two, nobody's going to notice. I promise. This is one of my personal tips is they always tell you look at people like, but I'm shy. I don't like looking at people when I'm talking to them. I get distracted. I'm thinking, oh my God, they gave a look. I don't know. And then like, it makes me like stop thinking of what I was saying. So what I do is when I'm looking in the audience, I look over people's heads. I actually look past them. I make sure that I'm still looking to my left, my right, looking down. I blur my vision. I could do that. I do not look at people. And I actually got feedback at my TED Talk. And I was like, oh my God, you were looking at me. It's like, was I? I wasn't. But that's a huge tip for especially people that are incredibly shy. You can still look past people and people still think you're acknowledging them. Box breathing, again, essential. And then also another thing that helped me, I was incredibly sick during the day of my TED Talk. I was making myself sick from my nervousness. It will happen. The number one thing that got me through it, that got me on that stage was I pretended that everybody in the audience was my friend. I gave myself these mental tasks, not tasks, but like the idea of like, oh, SGA is coming to support me, like my SGA family, my blood family, my husband, my mother, they're all coming to support me. Even some Lehman professors that they're coming to support me. They want to hear me. And I just pretended everybody in the audience was my friend. And I was just talking to them about what I was passionate about. And that got me on the stage. I literally was at the point where I wasn't going to go on stage and just thinking that got me through. I have one more video. Obviously, I want to keep to time because I know other people might or might not have other things scheduled. Again, this will be posted in Google Classroom. But before I get to that video, let me talk about a few things. If you want to apply for a TED Talk, put these in the WhatsApp, but you can actually follow them on Instagram. You can follow their website. They will make announcements. I will also make announcements even after this class ends, when applications are open. And even after this class ends, I will be walking you through, I will be guiding you. I would be happy to go over your first draft if you want before you actually submit it. If you want to do this, if you want to do that volunteering with them, they're also very active on Instagram. and they post everything there. And this week's challenge, you're gonna prepare. This is actually not this week's challenge. This is the last week, by the way. So you're gonna prepare a speech if you would like to actually talk in front of others. You can either upload it on Google Classroom if you're doing, especially if you're doing asynchronous, but if you're attending live, you are more than welcome to do that. We have a headset, a VR headset in the Student Life building. If you want to practice there, you can do that. Or you can give your speech at one of the last workshops. So just something to think about during that. All right, so on that note, I have the one more video. It is 5 o'clock. It is, let me see. Give me 1 second before y'all start heading out. It's hard sometimes when you're sharing your whole screen. Here we go. Workshop 3, attendance. Here you go. Those attending live, please fill out the form for your attendance. You're not counted for attendance unless you fill out this form. If you are attending asynchronously and rewatching these videos, also fill out this attendance form. So yeah, on that note, I will be playing this video. And if you have any questions afterwards, I noticed some people had the Google Classroom stuff. Please stay on if you don't mind, or I'll be, yeah. So yeah, this is about 10 minutes. I hope that's okay. But yeah, this is a really good one, actually. It's an actual TED Talk. So.
Hello, my name is Vanessa, and I am a recovering awkward person. This is me at the peak of what I like to call my plaid vest phase. Luckily, my years of social awkwardness led me to a fascinating career trying to figure out how people work. So what I didn't realize is that many years ago, I would do an experiment that led me right on this stage in front of you here today. My lab researchers and I were curious about TED Talks. We wanted to know, why do some TED Talks go viral and others don't? So we embarked on a huge experiment. We analyzed thousands of hours of TED Talks looking for patterns. Now, I wasn't sure if we would find anything, so we were analyzing body language, hand gestures, vocal variety. We even looked at outfit choices, which made today particularly pressure-filled. And very quickly, there was a pattern in the data that made me curious. And after we coded more and more TED Talks, we realized there was a pattern. Now, before I tell you what that is, I have a personal question for you, which is, when you see someone, what part of the body do you look at first? You can just call it out. Where do you look first when you see someone? Face, eyes. So most people, shoes.
Stop asking research questions to ChatGPT. Its answers are not reliable.
They're very high. So most people say eyes, face, or mouth. But actually, when we first see someone, the first place we look is the hands. And this is left over from our caveman days, because if we were approached by a stranger caveman, the first place we looked was the hands to see if they were carrying a rock or a spear. In other words, we wanted to know if we were safe, if they were friend or foe. Now, this actually still remains from caveman days. And when we can't see someone's hands, something interesting happens. So I just did something a little mean to your brain. You should start to feel just a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason for that is because when you can't see my hands, you wonder, what is she doing back there? And then the longer I leave my hands behind my back, you get more and more distracted because you can't see them. And eventually your brain is just screaming, can she just bring her hands out from behind her back? And the moment I bring them back out, it feels so much better. And this is because our brain knows that if we can't see hands, we can't see intention. And what we found is when we compared the most viewed TED Talks side by side with the least viewed TED Talks, we found a pattern with hand gestures. Specifically, on average, the most popular TED Talkers use an average of 465 hand gestures in 18 minutes. Yes, we painstakingly counted every single one. I have 465 prepared for you today. And the least popular TED Talkers use an average of 272 hand gestures, almost half. What's happening here? So when TED speakers take the stage, they're showing you first, friend, 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 friend. You'll notice when I walked out on the stage, I waved. I was saying friend, 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 friend. And the other thing that TED speakers do, see if this looks familiar. So they come into the red dot and they do something like this. Today, I want to talk to you about a big idea. I'm going to break it down into 3 different areas that are going to change your life. Right? So the most viral TED Talkers seem to sit in the same way with these hand gestures, because what they're doing is they're showing you, I know my content so well that I can speak to you on 2 different tracks. I can speak to you with my words, but I can also explain my concepts with my hands. And this way, they underline their concepts with their words. For example, if I were to say, today, I have a really big idea. It's huge. You laugh and you're like, Vanessa, it's so small. It's not very big. And that is because your brain gives 12.5 times more weight to hand gestures. So today, I have a really, really big idea, and I'm going to explain it to you in 3 different ways. My big idea is that we are contagious. Specifically, as humans, we are constantly sending and decoding body language signals. We also do this emotionally and chemically. To explain this, I have a rather disgusting but very fascinating study. So in this study, researchers collected sweat pads from people who ran on the treadmill. Then they collected sweat pads from skydivers on their first time skydive. 2 very different kinds of sweat. Here's the disgusting part. Then they had poor, unsuspecting participants. I know. They had unsuspecting participants in the lab smell these sweat pads while they were in an fMRI machine. Here's where it gets interesting. Even though the participants had no idea what they were smelling, the ones that smelled the skydiving sweat pads had their fear response in their brain activated. In other words, they caught the fear. This means that our emotions are contagious. Our fear is contagious. Our confidence is contagious. And this begs the big question. If our emotions are contagious, how do we make sure that we're infecting people with the right ones? So I believe that we can be contagious in 3 different ways. The first one is non-verbally. Now, to test this idea, I did a very simple experiment in the streets of Portland, Oregon. What I did is I stood in the street and I looked up at nothing. And I wanted to see if people would catch or mirror my non-verbal. So you can see this video. I stand in the streets looking at nothing. And slowly, one by one, I infect people walking by. And slowly, we begin to gather a crowd. Oh. So, this poor woman, she was standing there with me, and we're standing there, and remember, we're looking at nothing. I just want to improve it. And we're standing, and I'm going, how long are we gonna stand here? Who's gonna break first? And after about 40 seconds, we're looking, and she leans over and she says, is he gonna jump? And this experience taught me that we catch emotions and then we create rationales for why we've caught that emotion. Now, this is actually a good thing. As humans, this keeps us safe. Dr. Paul Ekman has studied something called the microexpression. It's a universal facial expression, and he's discovered there are 7 of them. Across genders and races, we all make this same expression when we feel an intense emotion. This is the fear microexpression. So fear is a really important emotion because we want to catch it from someone else to warn us if something's about to go wrong. And this facial expression also keeps us safe. So imagine for a second that you're walking and you see a snake. Your eyelids and your eyebrows jump out of the way so you can take in as much of the environment as possible. Is there another snake? What's my escape route? Then your mouth opens so you can take in oxygen in case you have to fight, yell for help, or flee. We make this face before we consciously realize we've seen a snake. Now, what's interesting about it is you should be starting to feel a little bit anxious. And that is because when we see other people have fear, if we saw this face in the subway, we would be like, what's wrong? What's going on? Because it keeps us safe. So I want you to try it with me. So open your eyes as wide as possible. Raise your eyebrows up, very good. Now take in a sharp breath. Perfect. Do you feel anxious?
With a partner like M&T Bank, we can do anything together. M&T 100% understands our mission.
What's interesting about facial expressions is they cause our emotions. So not only do our emotions cause our face, but our face also causes our emotions. It's called the facial feedback hypothesis. So when we see someone with this face, we catch their emotion, and then we are ready to fight, flee, or yell for help. Luckily, this also works with positive emotions. So one of the faces behind me is a real happiness microexpression, and one of them is fake. So the real happiness microexpression is when the smile reaches all the way up into these upper crow's feet muscles, those upper cheek muscles. And this is really important because you know when you tell a frenemy good news and they say they're happy for you, but you know they're not really? It looks like this. Oh yeah, I'm so happy for you. So try the fake expression for me first. So just try this fake smile, only on the bottom half of the face. You can even go, It doesn't feel so good, right? It feels inauthentic. Now go all the way up into your eyes. So smile all the way up into the upper cheek muscles. That should feel so much better. So what's interesting about this facial expression is it causes our own happiness. And we also catch it when we see it. Researchers at the University of Finland looked at these two facial expressions, and they had participants look at photos of people with real happiness and fake happiness. They found that when they showed participants pictures of the real happiness smile, those emotions caught the positive emotions, and they themselves had a positive mood change. But when they looked at the face with the fake happiness smile, they caught nothing. In other words, if we show up to events that we're ambivalent about, interact with people that we don't really like, we become less memorable. This doesn't just happen in person, it also happens on the phone. So I work with a lot of different clients, corporate clients who are on the phone all the time. They said, Vanessa, I get being happy in person, but how about on the phone? So we decided to do an experiment where we had participants in our lab record different versions of their hello, the first impression on the phone. We wanted to know if people could hear happiness, sadness, or anger. So we had people record different versions of their hello with happiness, sadness, anger, and while power posing. We wanted to see if they would sound different. So I want to play you two different versions of hello and see if you can guess which one is the happy hello. Are you ready? All right, same person. Here's A.
Hello?
Here's B.
Hello?
How many people think A is the happy hello? How many people think B is the happy hello? Very good. We can hear this difference. We can hear this microexpression. Now, I thought this was interesting, but I wanted to take it a step further. So we devised a second part of our experiment where we had participants in our lab listen to these recordings and rate that person on likability. We wanted to see if the happiness microexpressions or the anger microexpressions or the power posing expressions did better. Here's what happened. After we asked people, I do like this person a lot, I like this person a little, or I do not like this person, we found that the happiness microexpressions across all trials for both men and women, they became more.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone.
More likable. Whereas the same person who made an anger or sadness microexpression were less likable. This is the happy side effect of having your confidence be contagious. Not only do you infect someone else with that happiness, you also become more likable. We talked about nonverbal, and I have to talk about what comes after the hello. How do we infect confidence verbally? So in this study, we did it in Portland, Oregon, we took 500 speed networkers, and we asked each of these speed networkers to go through a conversation starter round, 8 of these rounds. So we assigned each participant a conversation starter to have with a stranger. Then we set up cameras in all corners of the room, and we analyzed each of these speed rounds for patterns. We were looking for body language patterns, leans, nods, laughs, smiles, confidence. We were also looking for volume differences. In a really good conversation, usually the volume goes up. In a really awkward, bad conversation, there's lots of silences and the volume goes down. And we also asked each of the participants to rate the conversation starters. We wanted to know which ones produced the highest quality of conversation. What we found is that the conversation starters that worked centered on this little chemical called dopamine. So dopamine is the neurotransmitter that we produce when we feel pleasure or when we get a reward. And I noticed that most of our chit chat that we have at parties or networking events is the same. It sounds like this. So, what do you do? Where are you from? Live around here? Oh. Well, I'm gonna go get some more wine. It's great talking to you. Those conversations happened over and over again. It was almost as if they were socially scripted. My brain was on autopilot. What we found is the worst ranked conversation starters, the ones that got the lowest ratings, the ones that produced the lowest volume, the ones that got the most leans away, worst head nods, and worst micro expressions, those were the ones that we use the most. What do you do? How are you? Where are you from? From a physiological perspective, have no effect, no pleasure. So what we tried was to find conversation starters that could spark or create some kind of excitement. Can you verbally trigger dopamine? And we found that the brain is really interesting. If you ask the brain a question, it tends to look for hits and not misses. What I mean by this is if you ask someone, been busy lately? Their brain immediately looks for all the hits of been busy. They think about all the negative things that have happened, the stress, the busyness, all the bad things in their life. Whereas if you ask someone, working on anything exciting recently? Their brain immediately begins to look for all the hits of excitement. They start thinking of all the good, all the happy things, all the excitement that's going on in their own life. And that does 2 things. 1, it creates pleasure for them. You're literally asking them to borrow excitement from other places in their life and bring it to the situation that you're in. And the other thing that it does is it makes you more memorable. Dr. John Medita found that dopamine, when it's triggered in verbal conversation, makes a mental post-it note. In other words, when you ask someone else to think of what's exciting in their life, the happy side effect is that you become more memorable. So here's my big challenge for today. Instead of using the typical, what do you do, how are you, and where are you from, let's banish those conversation starters forever, and let's try ones that ask the brain to look for hits of excitement. Try working on anything exciting these days. Have any vacations coming up? Anything good happen today? I think this is the greatest gift we can give our fellow human beings. We are asking them to flip into optimism. We're triggering dopamine and excitement and getting them off autopilot. The last way that we're contagious is emotionally. So this study is one of my favorites. In this experiment, they asked students to sing the song, Don't Stop Believing, into an accuracy software. Now, this is a very nerve-wracking experiment. They're graded on vocal tone, words, and they're given no preparation. But they did 3 different trials of this experiment. First, they had them just walk into the room and sing into an accuracy software. The second group got into the room and had to say out loud, I'm nervous. And the last group had to walk into the room and say, I'm excited. They found this simple reframe. The nervous group got 53% accuracy, the control group got 69%, but the I'm excited group got 80% accuracy. Why? Anxiety and excitement are very similar emotions. The only difference is mindset. So my challenge for you today is to think about how you want to infect people. When you want to harness incitement or trigger excitement, ask dopamine-worthy conversation starters. Use more hand gestures, make authentic smiles, and never pick up the phone in a bad mood. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to end on a note of excitement. I want to make you really infectious. So what we're going to do to end this talk is on the count of 3, with all of the energy you can muster, I want you to yell out, "I'm excited." Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm excited. You rock, Ted.
Amazing. Who's excited? I really love this TED Talk because it kind of, I wanted to show this on our last instructional public speaking workshop part. We still have public speaking, but this is the instructional part. Because it ties in everything that we've pretty much talked about. It ties in the different concepts, small ideas. It ties in her research. She was pulling in facts. It ties in personal things that she went through. And then she had the call of action, which was try this instead. You know, these are things to focus on that actually emphasize these things. Unfortunately, I did not see this TED Talk before I gave my TED Talk. And when I saw this, I literally went to everybody that went to my TED Talk and I said, how many hand movements did I do? Was I using a lot or a little? And they were just like, you used enough. And I was like, okay. So that was just, yeah. On that note, thank you all for those who stayed behind. I see pretty much a lot of people did stay behind, so I thank you all for staying. I'm going to put in the chat one more time, workshop 3 attendance. Please fill it out. And yeah, you are free to go. Please stay on if you have not done, if you're having trouble connecting to Google Classroom or if you have questions.
Hello?
Yes, well, I saw Willemie's hand first. If you mind.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Okay. Will Mary, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, Emily. Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to ask you about last week attendance.
Yes.
Because I cannot remember if I fill it out or not.
Yes.
Are you able to see it? Did I?
It'll take me some time to pull it up. I'll actually private message you. I'll look at it right after I end this call. And I'll see if you pulled it, if you applied. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, that brings me to actually a good point. I'm gonna actually share my screen again. Ellis Joe? How do you say your name? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was actually on point.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, so I had a question because I signed up like recently, like last week. So I missed like the first 2 classes. So I wanted to see like how I'll be able to see like, because I'm assuming it gets recorded, and I just wanted to like get caught up.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent question. Yeah, so oh yes, and Jocelyn, I see you in the chat too. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let me share my whole screen. Okay, so if you're in Google Classroom, let me actually copy Google Classroom right now. So if you don't have access to this, I'll put this. So Google Classroom to go, it should have been in the email for the program, but join the Google Classroom. When you first get on Google Classroom, you'll have the stream, which is just, it's hard for me to go through. I always go to just Classroom because everything's sorted in categories here. These things you won't see yet, but we're on workshop 3 right now. You'll have attendance, you'll have recordings. So I'll just, attendance 2 is up there right now. Attendance 1 is up there right now. So the lesson recording is actually these posts, the recordings that we're doing, the live sessions. In order to make up the work since you joined late, or even like if you've joined like ahead of time, watch the recordings and fill out the attendance afterwards. The attendance essentially is just saying, I attended this session, this is what I learned, this is what I found interesting, a self-reflection. The more feedback you give, the better, because it actually helps me know what's being effective in teaching, not just for your cohort, but in future. workshops, so it really helps me. So I appreciate like when people give the time. I do go through all of them one by one. So it really helps me. And then I also post if there were PowerPoints, the supplemental videos for YouTube. And then we always start with like the intro speaker. So we had the food bank, we had today OPA and Chase. So that'll have like their PowerPoints or like how to connect with them, flyers, things like that. Whatever they shared, I put it in there so you have it all in one thing. And then just to go over this really quick, there's internships and opportunities. I try to connect you with outside resources. Right now we have a college assistant. It's a paid opportunity. I'm going to be handing in people that are interested into the office Friday morning. So if you're interested, complete this, you know, by Thursday if you want. There's different volunteering opportunities. Different course information. This is where like how to graduate, how, you know, oh, I forgot the meeting information for Zoom. It's all in here. So it'll have the dates and things like that. Volunteer sheets. Volunteering is not mandatory, but if you do 5 hours minimum, you will get a leadership pin. And you will also, if you do 10 hours, this is the first semester we're doing it. If you do 10 hours minimum, you'll get an additional leadership badge showing that you can put on your LinkedIn profile saying that you did community engagement. And you just fill this out and you know, submit it. Everything, if you're doing the weekly workshops, so today is September 30th. Next workshop is October 7th. I recommend if you're either making up work or asynchronous to complete, you know, watching the video or, you know, and submitting the attendance by the next week. But I know we're all like busy, we're students, a lot of us have jobs. I actually have 5 part-time jobs right now, and I don't know how I'm surviving, but they are all due, including the volunteering, by Sunday, November 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Just so you have extra time if you need to. I recommend doing it earlier, bi-weekly, giving yourself that attention, self-discipline to do it weekly instead of doing everything all at once at the beginning of November when everything is absolutely due, because we have to like make the certificates and things like that. So that's the absolute deadline. But if you do it weekly, it actually helps me because if you're missing like one attendance or like for one of the things, I actually go through it and I'm like, oh, you're missing one thing, and I'll reach out to you and I'll say, hey, you just have one more attendance that you're missing for the graduation. Here's the attendance link, here's the video and whatnot.
Yeah, I miss a little bit of attendance. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no problem, Christian. Yeah, I know. It's all in the Google Classroom. So if you sometimes like if people are they attended and then they forgot to do the attendance, just like open up the recording and like look at it and be like, oh yeah, I remember this, and like, you know, you can then fill out the attendance and then, you know, you'll count for the attendance then. And then there's campus resources, which are just, you know, food bank and things like that on campus. All right. Is there any other question? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay. Are there any other questions that anybody wants clarification on? Any other assistance I can give you? I do know that there are 2 other volunteering things this week. If you're interested, they're part of clubs. And I also do a lot of stuff through WhatsApp. I'll do announcements. So the one's happening on Tuesday. Let me share my screen again. I don't know why I did this. I'll share these in the WhatsApp group. Tuesday, October 1st from 2 to 4:30 p.m. We have Project Sunshine. It's a charter club on campus. They're making kits for children in hospitals. Sometimes kids, like, they're going to have like a surgery, and hospitals will give them like a stuffed animal and be like, this is where they're going to cut you and things like that, just so that the kids are aware of it. It's an easier way. And then they get to keep that and like hold on to it. And it's a form of comfort. So they're actually making these kits. This will count towards your volunteering if you want to do this. It's in the Student Life Building on October 1st. And then there's another one this weekend, Saturday, October 5th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is through the Earth Environmental and Geospatial Science Club, but they're collaborating with POTS. Not POTS, POTS is the other one coming up, but Bronx is Blooming, which is an organization where they plant trees and things like that. All these things, by the way, great to put on your resume. Don't just volunteer for the volunteering's sake. Volunteer for things that you actually want to like, hey, I want to learn, like science and things like that and medical stuff. So you would want to do something maybe more towards like the Project Sunshine and things like that. There's tons of volunteering stuff. So yeah, there's those two things coming up this weekend. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay. Oh, yes, let me share them again. Kids. Yeah, so that is here. And I'll share these in the WhatsApp group again. Early autumn kits for play, October 1st, 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. in the Student Life Building 111A with Project Sunshine. Fall is approaching quickly, weather's getting colder. Come create fun activity kits for kids in hospitals. There's free food at this event. Meet new people. Project Sunshine's amazing. So yeah. That's an excellent question for WhatsApp group. So it's located also in, I'm gonna put in the chat now, but just being aware, it's in the Google Classroom course information WhatsApp group chat. Let me copy this and I will paste it in the chat. So like if things like WhatsApp is easy, like to be like, hey, this is happening like this week and things like that. And I'll post those there. But I do also post in Google Classroom as well. I'll try to make it as consistent as possible, but with 5 part-time jobs it's hard. But yeah. Any other questions? Any way I can support you for this upcoming week? Concerns?
No, I just wanted to say that you did amazing. Thank you so much for this presentation, and thank you so much to Patricia as well. I couldn't participate early because my phone is dead. I'm trying to charge it, still struggling with it, but I was able to go into Google Classroom and find the link.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And it was amazing meeting you this weekend.
Yes, also that it was so amazing meeting you as well, and also meeting Jens. I'm still struggling to pronounce her name. Jensley, right?
Yeah.
For the other, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I was hoping that we can like talk about the retreat, but we're 30 minutes over. Maybe next time. Actually, that might be a good talking point to ease people into it. So next time we'll talk about the retreat. So I think that'd be nice as like a little debriefing, because I remember last week somebody said, are we going to talk about it, like things that happened? So I think that'll be nice. All right. Thank you everybody for coming.
I agree, Emily. That's a great idea.
Oh, thank you. Amazing. Thank you. All right.
I need code for the Google Classroom.
I put in the chat.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Okay.
No, it's okay. Like I'll put it in again.
I thought you said to wait for the video to be over, and I was waiting. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant the TED Talk video.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah, I just put it. It's the last thing.
The last thing. Oh, perfect. Thank you so
Very
much.
welcome. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, O'Neill. Bye, Christian.